Hi, welcome to Smith and Grezzy. We've got another special guest, but this is a very special guest because he's the soprano cornet player of the 2024 national champions, the Flowers Band, Mr. Paul Richards. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you very much for having me.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
You must be still on that ceiling.
Yeah, I'm not budging. I'm staying there, mate.
You do right. You do right. It's a remarkable story, is Flowers. I mean, I've had a few friends down at Flowers over the years. I've popped in for a few rehearsals now and again, and and I've been out for a few curries with Paul and what have you. But they're a lovely set of people, aren't they?
Yeah, they're brilliant. I mean, they're a real family.
Yeah,
and I think that's part of the success. Really, it's just we all get on really well. We have a great time in rehearsals. We socialise, we play hard as well as work hard, and there's a real spirit about the band, which I think is part of the reason why we've been so successful.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, if it weren't for the Open, having the foreign band in, you would have been double champions by now.
Yeah, but that's the way it goes, isn't it? And we're delighted with the European qualification, I guess, from that particular contest. And then, I mean, it's obviously in one respect, it's a shame that we didn't win the Open as well. But if you'd said at the beginning of the year that we could have runners up in the Open and win the Nationals, I think we might have bitten your arm off for that.
Yeah. So just a little outline on Flowers Band. It was formed in 1968 as a result of the disbandment of the Royal Gloucester Hussars, which was a TA band. It then became the City of Gloucester Band. And in its past, it's ended up as low down as the third section. It's had various names, like the Hawthorne Brewery. Early in 1980, it became the Flowers Band. In 2005, the band became Polysteel. I think that's about when I made a few friends down there. In 2008, sponsorship came to an end from Polysteel, and you reverted back to the Flowers Band. I think when you were Polysteel, Mr. Philip Harper was in charge. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was. I mean, I wasn't in the band then, but Phil was the MD of Polysteel for quite a few years. Yeah, I think that's where he sort of learned his craft because, of course, he's from Gloucester.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's that is absolutely right. Phil was there for a long period, and again, they had a really great reputation at that stage for being highly entertaining, and a lot of the music that Phil wrote, I think, came from that period. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he did a lot of building himself while he was there, obviously.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think there's Flowers is the result of many years and lots of people working hard. In various phases since the band was formed. Like say ups and downs, but Phil was probably the guy that established it in the 2000s, and then of course Paul came in. I think around about 2010. I think it was when Paul joined Paul Holland.
2009, according to the record.
Was it 9? Yeah, I knew it was around that. I was trying to rack my brains earlier on as to how long he'd been there, but and I think that's when the sort of latest band, if you like, was sort of first formed. Although we had a period without Paul for a couple of years as well in around 2016 time. So, I think everybody who's come before. It's amazing how many messages we've had, and players, and people involved with the band who are so proud of the journey the band's been on, and obviously eventually to get to the level of winning the Nationals.
Yes,
it is quite a journey, isn't it, Paul? I mean, some people might think, "Oh, Flowers won the Nationals. That's a bit of a, not an anomaly, but it's a surprise." But it's not really, is it? Because Flowers they've been keeping up and up and up and up and being very consistent for quite a few years now. And so it shouldn't be any surprise to anybody, really.
No, I think anybody that's listened and really paid attention to the band, and I mean, you look at Butlins. I mean, we dominated Butlins certainly for the last 10 years. And I think, Paul took over in 2009 or whatever, 2009 or whatever it was. And, there was a real sort of intent then to turn it into, a top band, not just a good band, but a really top band. And I joined in 2012, and for that very reason, I could see there was a real intent to grow a great band. if I'm honest, we did grow massively. So about 2014, I think the band qualified from the Grand Shield. Went through and got. We played number 2 in the Open and got 3rd on Vitae Aeternum, and that was at a time when David Childs was in the band, and the band was really going somewhere. I think we had 2015 as well. I think we were 4th off number 2 in London on Spirity. So I think at that stage we really felt that we were nibbling at the heels of the of the Coreys and Dykes of this world. Bit of a setback, which sort of put the band back a little bit. I mean, we had great that we acquired the services of David Childs to conduct us for a couple of years, but we lost a few players through that period. But then really since probably about 2017, I think it was, when Paul came back, I think then the band's just got better and better through that period, and that was probably the final crescendo really that saw us take the title on Saturday.
Yeah, you look at the record books as during that period, and the band's always cropping up in the prize list. But for a lot of these things, I mean, you mentioned the Butlins contest, and the band did dominate for I don't know 6-7 years, maybe might be even longer.
Yeah, longer than
that going to that contest early in the year, was that a big sort of fill up for the band on a consistent basis over the years, thinking if we can go there and put a show on in both the test piece and the entertainment contest, then you can grow the band as a test piece contest band, but you're also proven that you can provide first class entertainment for concerts and things like that. Because I know you often were coming up to Morley Town Hall near Leeds, doing their series of concerts, and they only invite the sort of the top bands really for that. So did the Butlins contest make a big impact on the sort of health of the band?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, there was a lot about the finances as well, because it was a 10 grand prize.
Yeah, of course.
And we used to target it every year to sort of get the year off financially off to a great start, as well as, as you say, musically. And we used to basically plan the big program normally in November to then use at the Butlins competition, and then obviously we used to work up the test piece. But yeah, I mean, it used to get the year off to a great start, and it was quite purposeful in its sort of.
But I must mention, Paul, you're not sponsored, are you? Although Flowers Brewery is now defunct, isn't it?
It is, sadly. Yeah, we don't get any free beer or anything now. It's.
I bet you had plenty of beer on Saturday night.
I couldn't possibly comment, but
so
no,
Paul,
yeah. I mean, we're we pay our own way. I mean, the players are not paid. We all pay our own hotel bills. We all pay our own traveling costs and so on and so forth. Obviously, we do well out of competitions, and we do well out of concerts and so on and so forth to keep ourselves funded. But yeah, we're not a rich band, we're not sort of funded massively. It's all through our own endeavours, basically.
Yeah.
And that's why Butlins was so important to us, really. It did get us off to a great start.
So
your own story, Paul, I remember you as a principal cornet at Stanshaw, is that right? Sunlight.
Yeah, no, I am that old. I can confirm this.
So are we. So
you're in good company then.
Yeah, I was at Sun Life from about 87 to 94, I think it was. Sat on the end. So of course I was there, and the first major that a Southwest band won was the Open in 1990, and I was on the end for that as well. So
King of Wise.
Yeah.
With Roy.
Yeah, Roy Luadis with Roy. Yeah. So yeah, I've been there both times. A Southwest band has won the Open and the Nationals. Been on both, so I think that's quite unique from my perspective.
Absolutely.
So was Roy Newsom a big influence in those sort of formative years then?
Oh yeah, definitely. Roy was a big influence on me as a player. I had a great time with Roy, and we had some fantastic years, some fantastic performances. Sun Life was a awesome band. Sadly missed now.
It was.
A great influence on me, and obviously had great times there with that band.
I mean, they emerged sort of late 60s, early 70s. I remember as a kid listening to those old Stanshaw as it was, records with Lyndon Baglin playing euphonium and stuff like that. I remember Andy Duncan and I were at school together, and Andy on the time was on baritone, and we were just absolutely mesmerised by players like Lyndon Baglin. You know, we wore those LPs out and stuff, you know. And then we did lots of things, you know, like the Colston Hall concerts in Bristol and all that thing. You'd meet up, and then you'd meet up in contests and all that. But I remember in 1990, Simon, Roy came to Japan, didn't he, with Dyke?
He did.
And then literally about a month later, in fact, I think we found out that King of Wax was the test piece while we were on tour.
Yeah.
And then he wasn't taking the band that wasn't taking Dyke. He was taking Sun Life. And then they won, you know. So we were thinking, oh, bloody hell, you know.
Yeah, no, he was.
But yeah, I remember those days. But Lyndon was fantastic that day as well, you know.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, no, I played obviously sitting opposite Lyndon, and great experience that was. Sort of player he was, and we had some great times there. And like I say, some of the recordings
they were a classy band, and they had a classy sound, didn't they?
They did.
They had a proper, characterful sound. You could tell, you know, it's sometimes difficult these days to find bands that have that individual character. But Stanshaw had that. Sun Life, Stanshaw had that.
Yeah, they did. And it was, you know, it was over, like you say, about a 30-year period, and they maintained that sound.
I know it wasn't a flash in the pan. Yeah.
Yeah, great band.
So how did the move from cornet to the most precarious instrument in the band take place then?
It's actually quite a long story. So I after I finished with Sun Life, I stopped playing altogether for nearly 10 years.
Wow.
I basically, you know, career and family took over, and I stopped playing. I did a bit of sort of, you know, quintet work, but in the main didn't play. My son picked up the cornet, and took him to a local youth band in Swindon, and where I was living at that stage, and I got involved with the youth band, and sort of, you know, was party to the Great Western Youth Band, which, you know, had about 120 kids. I chaired that movement for a while, and so we did a lot of tuition and training, and then we formed a brass, because quite a few of those older players were getting, you know, beyond youth music. So we formed Brunel Brass, which you've probably heard of Brunel.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
And and I wasn't going to join, but John Winterflood, who was the guy who sort of conducted Brunel, I went along to the first rehearsal, and he put a sop in my hand, and he said, "You can sit there." So and I picked it up, and I just took to it, loved it, enjoyed it. And of course, Brunel went from being basically just a sort of a bit of fun to eventually, I think we went from the 4th to the championship section in 5 years. Two national titles, 4 regional titles later. We were in the championship section, and I thought, well, while I'm here, I may as well then go and play with the best in the area. So then I joined Flowers in about 2012. So that's a long story, but that's how I ended up from cornet to sop.
There's hope for us yet, Sandy. We've been out of playing for 10 years, haven't we?
Yeah, no. Yeah, we're a bit older though. Paul, tell us how do you find the main differences between playing principal cornet and playing soprano cornet?
I mean, obviously, the cornet line, you're playing a lot more. It's on your lip all the time, and you know, you're in that leadership chair as well. So you know, you're shaping the front line and the front bench as well. And I believe that, you know, you've got to do that as a principal cornet. You've got to be the leader of that section, well, the leader of the band ultimately, but the leader of the section. Yeah. Whereas sop's a little bit more individual. You're playing less. You're playing higher very often, and of course you're more exposed than if you're on the principal, unless it's a solo. So I guess those are the main differences.
I mean, just thinking about it now, I mean, the very best players that I've come across, like yourself, Crockers and all these guys, when you think about how they go about the job, and they're forever leaving bits out, they know exactly what is important. It's not what's written, it's what is important at that particular time. So you're sort of ducking and diving a bit more, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
Picking your moments and making sure that the bits that really count are the bits that are heard. You know, I mean, as a horn player, you have a bit of a relationship with the sop because of the E flat thing, you know, and you're always very aware of what's going on at that octave, because very often you'd have things that were similar sort of thing, you know, a bit like the cornet and euphonium, there's the sop and the horn sort of thing. So I am a bit more aware maybe than, of what they are. And then as a writer as well, I often write stuff and I think they're not going to play this, but I'm just going to cover it anyway in case there is any sort of, if the front row need a bit of a breather or whatever else, then you're there. The part's there if you need it. But I'm under no illusion that sop players will leave a lot of stuff out and pick and choose what they have worked out.
Yeah, someday
is the most important stuff.
I might be a little bit different to some, and I tend to be playing a lot and supporting the front line a lot as well.
Yeah,
because I think that's part of the role of sop is to be sharing the duties around a little bit as well. You're absolutely right, though. Sometimes it is what you leave out as much as what you play.
Yeah.
And being organised and like you say, working out what the really key things are where you have got to really shine and focusing on those. But I don't think that should be at the extent of not also helping out the front row when they need that help. You're still part of the team, and I'm a great believer that soprano cornet, the clue's in the word cornet. You're not an E flat trumpet on the top of it. You're an extension of the cornet section in my eyes, and I've always approached my playing in that way.
So when you decided eventually you were on, obviously at Brunel, and you went to Flowers. Was it a big step up from what you were used to at Brunel?
Well, I mean, they were in the championship section, but yeah, I mean, Flowers was a serious band. It was very much, it was in the Nationals, it was in the Open, and well, it wasn't at that stage, it was in the Grand Shield. But yeah, whereas Brunel were only just in the championship section, if you like. So yeah. Well, I mean, I had fantastic times at Brunel. I've still got loads of great friends there. They're a brilliant band, like I say. They brought so many young players. Actually, some of Flowers players have come up through the Brunel system. They've got a real sort of place in my sort of heart, if you like. But yeah, it was a step up. I mean, it was a step up to go to Flowers. It's what I wanted to do. And somebody, I won't mention any names, but somebody came to me and said, look, you need to be in a top band because you can influence results. Being in that band. And so yeah, that's why I moved.
Yeah. I once came down to Flowers and I sat in. They lent me a double B and I sat in. And I've got to say, Paul frightened me to death. I've played under some talents, but he's very, very demanding, isn't he?
He is, but I think he is on it. Absolutely. He expects high standards. But he also, it's great fun. It's enjoyable rehearsals. You play a lot. He doesn't get bogged down. He allows the rehearsals to flow. He trusts his players and gives us a chance to play. So yeah, he's a good guy. I've got a huge amount of respect for Paul. I think he's developed as well in that period that we've grown and he's learned. He's been abroad conducting and he's been in the Euros. And again, you've got to hand a huge amount of the success of Flowers to Paul. Without a doubt. He's really done a fantastic job, and both the Lost Circle and Harrison's Dream, the interpretation was spot on. And you got to put that down to Paul. I think he called it. His tempos were great. His whole approach was spot on. So yeah, I'll pay tribute to the boss. He might give me a hard time if not.
I first came across, but Paul was a student of mine at Huddersfield. As a youngster, and he was. At the time I was at Fairies, he was at Black Dyke.
Yeah.
So he played first horn at Dyke, and he was under the conductorship, if you want to put it like that, of Jim Watson.
He was, yeah.
And he's the same sort of, he has the imposing physique of Jim Watson, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, he's 9 foot tall, so, he's...
Yeah. So, he learned from somebody there as well. That's obviously that would have been one of his main conducting influences. I don't know, Paul must have been, late teens, early 20s when he came to Huddersfield, early when he was at Huddersfield playing at Dyke, and they won stuff. You know, they won the treble in '95 and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I remember him telling me a story at the Yorkshire area that in Bradford he'd forgotten a mute or something and went back downstairs. But they'd signed the forms and all that and gone back up. And bearing in mind they're dressed in what we used to call battle dress, the proper uniform. And he came back upstairs and somebody stopped him at the stairs. And they were just getting ready to go. And he says, where's your card? He says, I've got my card, I've handed it in. He says, well, I can't let you through. He says, well, I'm playing with Black Dyke. And there was like 26 people stood in uniforms on the other side of the door. And this bloke wouldn't let him through. He's a uniform one. It was talk about, you know, jobs worth, you know. And he says, well, I play in the band. He says, how do I know that? I remember Paul telling me, you know, how do I know you play with the band? Well, I'm just in the uniform for a start, you know. And there was a bit of a kerfuffle. He was just trying to be a bit of a job's worth, you know.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, but
doesn't it prove a point though? I mean, Paul's obviously spent time under Jim, and no doubt a lot of other good conductors.
Yeah.
And you learn what it takes to win. Yeah. And he's obviously transported that from his horn playing into his conducting,
even if it's
much like Philip Harper.
Yeah, because he knows what it takes to win a contest from an internal point of view as a player. Yeah. And if he can translate that as a conductor and teach his band the amount of effort and everything else, how to go about it, both the playing wise and mentally, then, you know, eventually this like I say, this isn't a flash in the pan thing. This has been an organic growth of a band for a number of years, and it's almost this sort of inevitable conclusion.
Paul is, you know, he's a phenomenal, you know, at preparation. I mean, his preparation has always been flawless, you know, and he really does, you know, put the piece together really well, rehearses the band really well. His consistency of conducting, I've never played for a conductor who is so consistent. And he never puts a foot wrong. He's always absolutely precise with his beating, and that builds confidence as well, you know, because you're never worried that somebody's going to go off and do a circular beat or something, because he's bang on. And I think the other thing is as well with Paul, he's done a lot of adjudication as well, and I think that's important as well. So you know what comes into the box, don't you? And there's no two ways about it. He's instilled that in Flowers now, you know. And obviously we've got a lot of young players, and it's been the other brilliant aspect really, is to see the young players that are, you know, in the band really learn their craft, not just as great players, but as players who can deliver on the big stage now. And you know, we are lucky. We've got a really young band and a really young group of soloists as well, apart from, well, there's a few older ones in there, but you know, you've got people like Luke Barker and Emily Evans and, you know, Matt Rowe and Lauren Chin, and, you know, just phenomenal players. But I think Paul's instilled in them now, you know, how to deliver on the big stage as well. And, you know, let's face it, you've got to have all of that, haven't you, to win big contests.
I mean,
you know, Paul, we were at, Sandy and myself were at Fairies in '93, I think it was, and we had a very good band. Me and Derek Jackson had moved there, but it needed a little bit more surgery than that, and eventually we got a few changes in the right positions, and I do feel that the two changes that you've had just recently with the Chris and Dan Thomas have really given you a big injection.
Yeah, no, there's no two ways about it. I mean, on the back of all of that long running, if you like, and like I said, all those young players really developing. You're right, Chris and Dan joining was almost like the icing on the cake, really. I mean, it lifted everybody's game. Both phenomenal players. And again, everybody in the band has lifted their game because of that. You know, it's amazing how that sort of sound coming from that part of the band is just, you know, really just everybody now has sort of lifted their game as well, I think. So, really lucky to get Chris and Dan, and they've been, you know, they've come into the band and, you know, I mean, when we bring people in, it's important that people, you know, fit in as well to the group, and it's been great to have them there. They've absolutely loved it. I know they've loved it because they've told me they've loved it. And both musically and as people, I think they've added a lot.
Yeah, they're both nice people. It's so you've got the European to look forward to now. But it's not next year, it's the year after, isn't it?
It is, yeah, 2026. So it's a little while to wait, but we're absolutely buzzing about that already, and already sort of planning and looking ahead. So
where will that be, Paul?
It's in Austria. Linz, is it? Linz.
Oh, right. It was there in 2010. I played there with Dyke.
Yeah, it's meant to be a great venue.
That was Red Priest, I think. We played as the own choice.
So, obviously, thanks for coming on, Paul. It's massive congratulations to you and all the band. I sent a couple of messages to Paul the other day and what have you, chasing your numbers. And so, yeah, from me and Sandy, huge congratulations. So well deserved. And long may it continue.
Yeah, no, well, we'll do our best. Like I say, it's been a great year, and obviously to cap it with those two results was awesome. But yeah, I think we've got every potential to go on and become even better. Like I say, our band is young. There's lots of energy there. So yeah, we fully intend to not just get to the top, but hopefully hang around there a bit as well. So
yeah, I think it's a good thing for banding. Yeah, it just opens it up a bit, and then all of a sudden, people are thinking of another name to add to the list of potential real contenders. So yeah, every credit. Has the band got much coming up before the areas maybe next year?
Well, so brass in concert then. We've got a busy Christmas program as well. So yeah, that's the sort of order of the day. But we've got some tours next year, and I think there's a couple of CDs planned as well. So yeah, and I'm sure actually, we've already had a few gig inquiries come in as well as a result of the win. So yeah, I think we're going to be busy. Although again, we try and gauge it so that we're not too mad busy. So it's finding the right balance, isn't it?
But yeah, happy days though. I mean, you'll enjoy it, and it is great. Being able to take that pot around and plonk it on the end of the stage and stuff. It'll be great, and you'll be able to get all your proper pictures and your proper band. I know there'll have been tons of them on Saturday night, but in your band's uniform and all that stuff. It's great. You got all those sort of things to look forward to. Especially, I think. Was that your first one as well? I noticed you put up on Facebook.
It was, yeah. No, it's the first Southwest band that's ever won the national.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, for everybody, it's the first major. So yeah, even more sweet.
Yeah, but you could see how happy especially the young players.
Yeah.
That's the first one. And that's how they should look at it as well. The first one. Enjoy the rest of the year.
Oh, we will definitely. Yeah, no, we will do so.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it for this week. Thank you very much to Paul Richards for joining us from the mighty Flowers Band. If you've got any questions that you want me and Sandy to raise in future ones, please email us to Smith and, the and is A-N-D, Smith and Grezzy @gmail.com. And we'll endeavour to bring up some of the subjects that you send to us. So for now, congratulations to the 2024 National Champions of Great Britain, the Flowers Band.